Back it off a little bit. All right, David. Turn around.
Mike, am I good?
You're good.
You guys hear me out there? What? All right, what? What? Thanks for sticking around. First, let me start by saying, most of you know me as Dave Feldberg, disc golf champion, whatever, thinks he plays disc golf for a living. But really, how I make a living is teaching. I teach at universities, I travel around, teach clinics, and I make most of my money from teaching. So what I've decided is if I'm going to do that, I need to find out really what people are teaching, not just opinion. So I went and got my master's degree in education, and I spent some time with some people trying to figure out biomechanically what is the correct way to throw a disc. Now, bring them in. Everybody come on over this way. You guys don't have to wait over there. Chairs over here. And so we went through all the mechanics, and what we came to find out is that there is a biomechanically correct way to throw the disc. I don't necessarily do it. You probably don't do it. But just like in ball golf, there is a biomechanically correct way to swing the club, and they can show you on the computer. Not even Tiger Woods can do it. But there is a correct way, and all players attempt to do that. Everybody's body's different. Everybody's completely different in their mind, so what they think they're doing and what they're doing with their body may not be what the exact swing should be, but it's as close as they can get, and that's why you play the game. So first off, before I show you what I'm talking about, I wanted to talk about why this is. There's one thing is to just tell people, here's the way to do it. First, let me tell you why. So when I was thinking through it, I thought, there's this problem that everybody has in disc golf. I travel to all these countries, travel to all these cities, and everybody does the same thing. And when I show you, you'll see that most people start their throw, and when they get here, they turn and throw. Some people that teach call that rounding. Other people call it not loading the hip. But I thought to myself, if I'm going to fix this problem, I like to know where it came from. So I did some research, and I checked around, and really it's from ultimate. If you've played Frisbee or played other sports, what happens is in ultimate you can't pivot. And if you pivot, it's a foot fault. So people that threw Frisbee, ultimate was way more popular in disc golf in the beginning. And people that threw discs around the beaches and turned people onto disc golf taught them to stand and throw. To do that, they had to move left to right and generate some power. They weren't able to open their hip up and pivot. And so now traveling all around the United States teaching people, I find that they all have this exact same problem, which is rounding. So I want to show you the correct way to do that. Anybody have any questions before I move on? Please feel free to speak up. Don't be shy. This is informal. Nobody? All right. Who's got a disc for me? All right. So I want everybody to start thinking about disc as being on a line. The line of play is the line that goes through your shot to infinity, out the back, and to the line that you're attempting to throw. So that line of play is what your disc should never leave. And so I don't know if it would be easier from a side profile, maybe a side profile, but as people throw, and I'm going to go through the basic mechanics of it and break it down for you, but I just want to show you. Yeah. You got another disc for champ? Anybody?
Straight on.
All right.
This side, I'll just straight on.
So as they throw, they bring the disc down this line, and as they go to throw, they twist. You see how the disc is coming off this line? I'm trying to throw it there, right? And the only way that people score with that shot is that one day of the week when they go out and shoot 10 under, and that's the day that when they're throwing, they take it off the line, and they happen to let go of it right on the line. That's a great day, but you can't be consistent with that. And so that's why some days you shoot 10 under, and you go to the same course with the same disc, and you shoot 3 over. And you go, man, that Firebird sucks today. Not the Firebird. It's the fact that you're holding it a little longer and your Firebird's getting a nose down angle. So now I want you to think about it a little more. Obviously, everybody that's got this part, and I see it happening around the country, I see people working on what I'm saying, holding the disc straight, pulling it through, trying to hold it straight. But that would only be for throwing perfectly straight. How often do you throw perfectly straight on the disc golf course? Never. Thank you. So now we have to start thinking about whatever we want on the front side to happen on the back side of the swing as a mirror. So say this is my line, and I'm facing here, and I want to throw over the P in champion. Now even though the basket's here, a lot of players, I won't say all players, but they reach back, they reach back in a straight line. from the basket. They're looking at the basket. You know they're throwing it over there. And then when they get to here, instead of holding the line, they drop their shoulder, bend over, and try to throw a hyzer. Okay? Again, when you see that line, it's from here, 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 here. So now I made a reverse arc like the Anheuser, but it makes my disc go left. But I can't consistently land them on a dime. And when you see players like Ken Climo, you see him, he can throw a hyzer any distance, and it lands within 15, 20 feet, 15, 20 feet, 15, 20 feet. And the reason for that is that he's throwing the exact line of play again. So he's throwing to the P, he has to reach to there.
Away from the P on a direct line.
So he doesn't turn his body to face the P. He still face forward like you're talking about, like you see players doing. But when he reaches to there. So that when he comes through, he holds the line to the P without ever taking the disc off a straight line to the P. So vice versa on the Anheuser, you would think that you have to reach behind you. And this is why the majority of players tend to turn the disc over. When they're learning, they jerk it over and they yank over on it. Because you see the average player, when they reach back, they go like this, right? And they curl up. Well, that makes for a really nice Anheuser, because if I'm going to throw it straight, the only place straight to throw it would be to right here, which would be out to the left of me, which would be an Anheuser line. Before I move on, does anybody have any questions about this yet? I see a lot of faces making faces, but I'm not sure that anybody is following or not following it. Making sense?
Yeah.
All right. Now, once you have the line of play, you have it figured out. Well, actually, let me talk about the biomechanics. As I said, it was biomechanics. So you reach back, right? You're on this line. Here's some of the trouble you're seeing on people. They tend to start bending their elbow. Biomechanically, you want to move this shoulder only into place. See, if you move the elbow first, the shoulder's out of place. It can't be in position. You have to move the shoulder into the position of the impact zone, which is over the right leg.
Hip man shoulder.
So see how they're here? I move them without bending my arm. That allows me biomechanically to start moving my elbow next, not out of position. As I bring it, I get to over my knee, and then here's where the mechanics comes in, where you don't go like the round. We keep opening our foot and our hip, allowing the disc to come in front of us. And what the majority of players are doing is they're getting to here and twisting on the toe and coming through the shot. Anybody? I do that? All right. So once you have that, and you understand that you have to throw in a line, now you have to figure out what to do with your arm afterwards. It's the follow through of the arm, or the shape of the arm, is exactly what the flight's going to be. Okay? So think about this. If you're going to throw a hyzer, but you go like this, it's going to turn over and go to the right before it goes back. Because you're telling the disc to go out and turn over. So I was watching this golf show. I think the guy, what's the guy's name, the crazy golf guy? He's like the genius of all golf. He's like Hank Haney, but he's got his own show. And he says, it's not coincidental that the Ben Hogans and the Phils and all the great hitters of all time had one thing in common. And that's with their lead arm, they finish their swing like this, with the back of their hand shown. Well, biomechanically, we're doing the exact same thing as a golfer. Imagine yourself as a left-handed golfer, okay? You're swinging just like a left-handed golfer. So for us, it's when you come through, if you don't see the back of your hand, a backhand, that's where it got its name, then you have changed the flight of the disc from the angle that you threw it. And when you change the angle of the disc any which way, when you're letting go, you've manipulated the disc and you've taken it off that line. It was on that line and then you took it off the line, or you try to force it to the line. When you did that, you have a very small chance of throwing an accurate shot. Okay. No more questions. I figured you guys have some questions.
You said you pivot, and you said that you're not supposed to pivot on your toe, you're supposed to pivot on your heel, I guess?
Yes.
So what, it takes out that many more joints here, basically, at a fixed point to spin?
Well, I was going to go through it step by step, but I'll tell you this. If you're throwing on your toe, right, and all the weight goes forward, biomechanically it goes against the knee, right? It causes all kinds of knee problems. But if you go toe to heel and you put your weight into your heel, you use the muscle of your hip to push off the ground and rotate.
And then back to the toe.
Yeah, and back to your toe, and that allows your hip to rotate while it's doing a muscular motion, and that causes no type of joint pain or, bad stuff, like I said. Any other questions? We can in the end. Yeah, no problem. So, where was I? Let's see. Oh, I know where I was. So, now we're back to the line of play and the follow through. One thing I saw on the show was really important to disc golf throw. If you want to get a good disc golf throw, or if you want to get a good golf swing, you have to have a really good impact zone. Okay? And what people think the impact zone is, and what it really is, I think are two different things right now in disc golf. And that's because of the turning of the left hip. So, you're in your stance, your golf stance, whatever stance you want to be in, say it's disc golf or ball golf, and you're reaching back. The impact zone is the spot from where your toe is at this point. So when I reach back where my toe is, that's where I need to let go of the disc. That's the impact zone. Most people are trying to release it in front of that. And that's why when you see that a lot of the good pros, their heads are down and their disc is in front of them. And that's because the impact zone happens here when you lean. See how I haven't bent my arm yet? I'm not going forward. I'm going to pull all my weight to the impact zone over the right leg so that when I turn and throw, I can let go right here. And this space right here is the impact zone. And what's happening to the players that are turning is they're getting to this position here, and then they're turning like this. And they're throwing the disc from here, or from here. But not throwing it where the impact should be, which is where you can load all your muscles up.
When you say impact, you let go of the disc.
No, the acceleration before you let go.
Acceleration before you let go.
The zone. The hit, whatever you want to call it, acceleration.
Letting go of the disc.
Are we letting go of the disc? Depends on the shot.
Well,
If it's an under control shot, then we open our hand and we let go because we're trying to control it. We're guiding it. They call it being handsy. If we're throwing a monster shot and I'm trying to get over those trees, you'll see our hand doesn't open and it stays shut. And you'll see our hand squeeze tight like this after the picture after we let go. And that's because if you want, what is something different, but all right. Biomechanically, the fingers in the hand, if you want me to cover it. What they said is that everybody tries to throw and they hear this snap. And they think it's really good. Wow, did you hear that snap when Johnny threw? He throws far. Okay, well that's all a lie, okay? Biomechanically, if you're hearing snap, that means that one of your fingers is either A, letting go, or you're letting go before. And your finger is coming off the disc and slapping back into your hand right here. Now that happens for a lot of people like Valerie Jenkins, who people say she's got great snap, and that's because she uses only 2 fingers. So her 2 fingers fly in the air and slap back into her hand. It's not because she's throwing extra hard. It's that she's just getting this whip from her fingers back into her hand. And mechanically, that's a drag. So you wouldn't want that to happen. Biomechanically, what you want to happen is that you've overpowered it so much with this thumb muscle, instead of this top muscle from squeezing here, with this thumb muscle pressing down here on the disc, that it rips out and your fingers can't hold it. And I know that you shouldn't hear anything. I mean, how many people here have seen Will Schuster or Garrett Gerthy throw? Online or in person? You hear nothing but silence. And that's because there's no drag on the disc and they've timed their hand to be in position where it pops out by squeezing very tight with their thumb muscle right before they release. They press down on the disc and it pops out of their fingers. There's nothing they can do to control it. And what the top players call it is a controlled shank. When they're doing that, they're not, oh, I've got to aim it over here. They're just throwing the disc as hard as they can, and they can feel where they're going to lose the grip. They just let it pop out, and then they get the big flight and they get the stability right. And that's why big distance guys usually don't do very well in tournaments, because controlled shank isn't going to help you at the US Open. Any other questions so far? All right, so we'll go through the part that you're talking about. The part that he's talking about is called space. The space that you need to move the disc and keep it on the line. And that space happens on a pivot from toe to heel. So most players can't do it is they get to here, they're on their toe, and there's nowhere to go anymore. There's no more space. So it's time to throw. but that's no good, right? We need that time to open our hip up and get it out of the way so we can move. And as you can see, Ken's going to go from toe to heel. That allows him to have the space right here to move the disc down the line. If you don't do that, then you have to take it in front of you. I mean, if you land like this, there's nowhere to go but forward. So it's really tricky to practice. I wouldn't recommend it in the middle of the tournament. For those of you sitting out there thinking, man, maybe I should do that tonight. Don't do it till you get home. As Craig will tell you, it took how long? A year. But did it help? All right. So you have to go and toe, and here's the trick. When people are trying it, they'll try to stand back like this, go toe flat, and rotate around. It gives you too much rotation. So when you're learning it, stand on the inside of your foot, roll to the inside, and as you get to your heel, you can almost drag your foot onto the side. And you'll see that a lot of the top players are blowing shoes out, just like mine, where we're rolling our foot over. And that's why Disc Golf Keen is having such trouble making a shoe for us that we can use. Not because they don't make a quality product, they really make a shoe that's rolling laterally like that. They just don't make them. So hopefully we can find a shoe that'll work, but you'll find that when you do this, you're gonna wreck your shoe, so don't be mad at me. Because you're gonna put torque now that you never had. Instead of getting a little toe burn that you get on the corner of your shoe, you're gonna have a whole shoe that's burned out on the side. For a while. Tell them your success story.
Well, it took a long time. I thought, what can you do to my game? You know, and trying to get the slack and the whole and I found my game was over. And then slowly but surely, all the stuff started getting put together. And I was able to put everything together at once. But I was able to take all the stages, and finally they all came together at once. And I went from throwing 300 to 360 in a matter of 8 months. So I'm not the biggest, strongest arm, but now I can throw 360, 50. Yeah.
Get a good win, it's floating, I get 400.
Yeah. You won a tournament though, right after that, right? He won some tournament, or he called me up and he's like, I didn't know it was going to work, but I won this tournament. Thank you. That's all he said. He hung up. But so my point is that what we're teaching you right now is not something you just pick up, and that's why it's an athletic biomechanical motion. It takes time and practice. You don't go to the basketball court and learn how to make perfect jump shots in a day. You just don't. So the practice that you'll need to go forth with this is what I'm going to leave you with. Can I get a time check so I can see where I'm at? Okay. Huh? 6:40. Okay. So one thing that Ken wanted to throw out there, he reminded me of, that I was going to leave out for some reason, is that when you're learning it and you're trying to pull down this line and you're pulling down this line, you're going to have a hard time not doing this still.
Not stepping around as you pull.
It's just something that people have a bad muscle memory, and they thought they saw Ken Climo like this in a magazine. And he is like that. But the part that they left out in the picture is that biomechanically he couldn't do what I'm saying and do that. And that's why people have had a struggle with trying to imitate what they see. But if you broke him down in really slow motion, you'll realize that when Ken comes through, brings his arm to his impact zone, as he impacts, right when this rounding goes to take place right here, see this? He lifts his leg up off the ground and makes a counterbalance so he can't round anymore. And then he throws, and then that whip then causes him to round over. But the disc is already gone. And if you see that motion, people aren't catching that little leg whip. And that leg whip is what keeps the player from rounding.
And it keeps you balanced.
And keeps you balanced. Question back there? No? Yeah. That's his real form, but you don't really catch that in the picture. People either catch this, so they think he's throwing a layup hyzer, or they catch that rounder, so they think he's throwing a drive. But
Actually, both of them happen.
yeah,
At full speed, it happens very fast.
yeah. If you look at like the Garrett Gerthies, it's almost hard to see. It's like a swivel, like your shoestring gets swivels like real quick. His leg goes back and he just pops. And most people are paying attention to the shots and they don't see his foot. But trust me, that's what all of them are doing.
You do at the end.
At the end.
Then after you counterbalance, you're able to stay over the hit spot. It helps you stay over the hit spot.
Yeah.
So is that something that you brought into your throw, or you just realized you were doing?
thing. I just realized I was doing it after a while.
Well, being that I was teaching all those classes and everything, I told them they were doing it. I went to the camera and I was like, there's something you guys are doing. And I saw Avery doing it and I go, you guys are kicking your leg. I don't know what you're doing here, but your leg kicks up and then you spin around. No, I don't. So I broke it down in slow motion. I'm like, look at your leg now. Oh, I guess I do. So Kenny was always pronounced. That's why his famous picture is this. You see it in all the magazines. Right? So you knew he was doing it. But the other players, you never catch them in that pose because they don't hold it very long.
It's not from the mosh pit, then?
All right, now, what I want to talk about next are some practice tips for this before we move on. I brought a golf club. There it is. So this thing right here, me and Ken have given private lessons to lots of people. We came across a couple of guys that we just could not break the habit. No matter what they did, they rounded. They just couldn't get it through their head. Round, 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 round. So, came up with this. Had to have something that had lag, right? A golf club, so you can use any golf club that's 9 iron, but preferably a 7 or higher so you get the right length. You get like a sand wedge, it feels kind of tiny in your hand. But with this club, when you're standing in your backyard, if you go to throw and you do your rounding thing, it's going over there.
It's almost impossible to get power on it.
Yeah.
Going like this.
You end up swinging it, and it ends up hitting this guy right here, Mike, in the head. Oh, Mike. So, what you need to do is learn to throw this golf club in front of you. If you can make this golf club go out right in front of you and land right in front of you, then you're throwing down the line. Yeah. Yeah. And so, finally, what this trains you for is able to keep your head back. So everything that I'm teaching you, I like to say I invented it, but I didn't. It's all right out of ball golf books, all right? So word for word, they say, down here in my swing, and they say, when you reach back and you feel the lag of the club, where should your chin be? Right over the ball, tucked, right? And when you come through with the lag of the club and you feel the weight, you hit the ball and swing through until your chin gets to your shoulder, and then you look up. And that's why a good golfer needs someone to spot their ball. So in disc golf, what happens is 90% of people go and look right at the shot. They're chasing it down. They want to see it. I know I want to see it too. I'm excited. But it says in the rule book clearly, all players must watch other players' shots. That's why it's in there. So how many people here get Disc Golf Magazine? A lot of people. A few issues back, I was on the cover for Charlotte, I think, winning the Charlotte tournament. I did really good. I was wearing this like blue shirt, and on the cover, I'm like this. Come on, I'm directly over the impact zone, and the disc is 70 feet in front of me, and I'm looking straight down. All right? I did really good that weekend because I was maintaining keeping my head down. I hit all the gaps at Charlotte, which I think is one of the toughest courses in the country. And the reason is because I kept my head down on the impact and waited for my shoulder to bring me up. I'm not inventing this stuff. It's exactly mechanically what you need to be doing. So if you're chasing it with your eyes, then you're not going to get a good throw. And I know you guys see Ken Clivo. He has this weird ability to keep it tucked but still look. I wouldn't recommend that. I've tried it. I have to look down. I see space, but if you see some pictures of Ken sometimes, he's like looking over the corner of his eye. I don't know how he's doing that really. That's years of practice, but I have to turn my head away. But you want to keep it pinned. Right shoulder, left shoulder. Let it bring it up. And by bringing the head up and pulling the shoulder, you've rotated the left shoulder. Without that, you've thrown like this. And those make good pictures in the magazine. I see a lot of pros that use that picture. I don't know why, but it makes a good one, I guess, because you show the sponsor logos. But it's incorrect. You're not rotating your left shoulder through.
What he's saying would be akin to swinging the golf club with one arm and leaving your other shoulder here. It doesn't look too powerful, does it? Leaving your other shoulder here. Now, if I swing with one arm and brought both shoulders with me, you can generate a little power.
Yeah.
Even though I'm doing it with one arm. So same thing here. Throw one arm, don't leave your other arm back there. Let it go. All right.
And that's why I've heard a lot of teachers, some of the good teachers around the country, they say things like, elbow somebody. Right? That makes sense. So you elbow them with your follow-through arm. So because for you to get this follow-through here, if your arm is long, it still doesn't get all the way through. It feels uncomfortable. So that's why they say to curl your arm And you see players like this. The really good ones finish like this. And Gary Gerthy, he gets like way up here. And that's because he rotates his shoulder all the way through. And if you keep your arm straight, it's hard to do that. See how it gets out here? But with the arm bent, I can get way back. So that's one of the tips. So one of my other practice tips that I wanted to give you besides this golf club. Anybody have any questions on how to use the golf club?
You're actually throwing the golf club.
Want me to give a demonstration? All right, I'm gonna step over here. I don't want to hurt nobody.
You really can't throw a golf club far.
Am I still there on the mic?
Unless you do it down the line.
I wish I had 2 golf clubs. Anybody got a umbrella on them?
Go for it. You have to.
I know this guy. I can get him another free one. Me and John go way back.
Don't throw it in the leg.
That's where this one's going. All right, so I'll do both swings. So here's a rounding swing, and look what happens to what the object I'm throwing. Huh, that's strange. I mean, it looked like a good swing. I followed through, I rotated. But I looked like I was throwing forward, didn't I? I finished facing forward. Now here's a non-rounding swing. The golf club's got way more lag, so it's much better. So that's basically where I aimed. I threw a hyzer. I was trying to throw a hyzer and it was straight. See how that one's over there? And when you throw it, I promise you, it's going to go over there. I swear to you. It's going to go over to the right, and you're going to be like, dang it, Dave. But all you need is to break that habit. You know? To break that habit, you have to purchase an equalizer, ISO throw, disc bands. You can go to Walmart and get one for $8. It's a stretchy band thing. And when you hook the stretchy band to something, right, you attach it to it, you put your hole in your disc. I think people have probably tried it. Henry, you got one? Put a hole in the disc and tie it around, all right? When you grab the disc, if you stand at the distance that it's nice and taut, if you try to pull the disc down the line and you take it off the line, the pressure you'll feel right here is enormous at this distance. Say this is the door. But at that same distance, if you hold your hip and you open and pull it inside, it'll feel like it's loose. And that's how you know you're doing it right. People get those things a lot of times, they're like, look how strong I am. And they're just stretched out on these muscles. But really, you want to, from this distance, you just pull it inside nice and easy. If you pull it inside and use your joints properly, you'll be able to move that rope way out here without any strain. But if you go against the joint, you'll have tons of strain.
Say, come through, it's inside, you have to see the back of your hand. That's all hyzer.
Yep.
How do you throw an anheuser?
All right, here you go. I hope you asked that. I was hoping you would. What's your name? Nice to meet you, Pete. All right, look. So here comes some more of the biomechanics myth stuff. So to execute an anhyzer currently, 2 things are done. Hyzer with a flippy disc, or people tend to go like this, right? And they round it. See how round that is? Right? And so you turn them over, but you turn them over early probably a lot, right? And what you need to do is realize that the back controls the angle of the disc, the spine. So as I come through and I'm throwing perfectly straight, right? My back's straight, I throw straight, it comes out straight, right? I'm throwing hyzer, which as you said that was easy. I'm gonna throw from over here, I'm gonna lean, and I'm gonna bend my spine this direction. And now with the same arm motion on a straight line, it's a hyzer. Vice versa, I reach from here, and I reach from the anhyzer spot, right? I'm not going to go like this with my arm. All I'm gonna do is bend my back like this, and I'm still gonna pull it straight. See that? Still pulling it straight. But I put my back in a position in my body so that I'm throwing anhyzer. I'm not a contortionist. Look how fat I am. Do you think I'm flexible? I can't even touch my toes. Come on. Any more questions out there? All right. At this point, what I wanted to do, but it seems to be a lot of people here. Here's what we're going to do. Until dark, that's all I can do. 2 till dark. No, I'm just kidding. Until dark, I'm going to stand right here, and you can throw them that direction. Not into the water, but that direction, into the trees. I'll be over here at my stand, and me and Kenny will break you down and do what I just showed you, because I could stand up here and give you another hour worth of technique. Hold your finger like this, your elbow like that. You won't remember any of that. But what you will remember is me breaking you down personally and saying, here, your foot's out of position, your shoulder's out of position. So if you want to do that, line up over here. I'll try to get through as many people as I can. If not, I'll do it every night after their clinics. I'll be helping Kenny on Friday. I'll be standing right there. I'll do it again if you didn't get your turn. So if you want to get in line, I appreciate it. I'd love to give you more information, but we're running out of daylight. I had a lot more planned, but we didn't know it was going to take that long, so thank you.
What we're going to do, we need a little bit of time. I'm glad that he came up with that idea because we need a little time to fill up because we're still working out scores. Believe it or not, there's this, this is a big can of worms. So first and foremost, let's hear it for Dave Feldberg. This is the first night of the End of a Champions Series sponsored by Crown Digest Sports. And also I'd like to thank Kenny for jumping in there. And you can come see him in 2 days. Tomorrow night we'll have Barry Schultz. So go ahead and interact with these people. Feel free. Think about what you might want to ask Barry tomorrow as well. Because we want to participate. I'll have some, yeah, definitely. And I'll have some mics out. I'll bring the wireless around tomorrow night and put it right in your face so your question will be heard by everybody. Thanks again, Dave. Thanks for your patience as well, folks. We really appreciate it.